Hello and welcome to the open platform of Public TV of Armenia. Today I will discuss the current situation in Artsakh and possible developments and the future of the peace process with Davit Babayan, Foreign Minister of Artsakh. Mr. Babayan, thank you for joining us and for your time.
Thank you for inviting.
Mr. Babayan, please tell what is the situation now in Artsakh and how is the reconstruction and rehabilitation process going on?
Well, we can say that situation is, of course, a very special one, because Artsakh is now is in kind of an emergency department, because our country, our republic, is severely wounded. Let's say it's a kind of a warrior who lost one of his legs, one of his arms, one of his eyes, but we are still alive. If we are alive, then there is a chance to recover. This is the overall political, psychological situation in our country. But the people, they do have strong will to continue and to recover. As to the reconstruction process, then it's going on. We can say in a quite active, time framework, because every day, almost every day, every weekend, every week, we can build some infrastructure. We can reconstruct some damaged, building, house, or whatever. So this process is going on, and we hope that in the coming maybe 2-3 years we can actually restore at least the housing fund of our country.
Mm. And how many people do now remain in Armenia who are left without housing?
Well, I think that around 30,000, and there is a state program being carrying out which envisages construction of even kind of new villages for these people to come and to live together, even in a different place. So it's one of the most important tasks our state faces, to bring all of them back, and we hope that we can do that.
Recently, there were reported attacks against Armenian civilians by Azerbaijani military. One of them is stoning a car transporting the remains of killed Armenian soldiers. And how would you describe this such behavior, and what developments can be expected, especially considering the fact that there are Russian peacekeepers there?
You see, Azerbaijan and Turkey have a very, let's say, rich experience of geopolitical struggle. Why I'm using this terminology? Because it was a state-sponsored act. These acts were indeed state-sponsored ones. Why? Because they were organized by the state, but in a very specific manner. Now they cannot attack, for example, Armenian side or even Armenian civilians with arms, with weapons, directly with the involvement of military personnel, because it will be a kind of a new war, a casus belli. But instead of doing that, especially taking into consideration the presence of Russian peacekeepers, so you understand that it could be indeed a new, large-scale, even regional or maybe global war. But they try to achieve the same goal, and their goal is to somehow, weaken our will, to demonstrate the people that there is no future for Artsakh, by doing such kind of acts and demonstrating that security is on a very low level. But they are using this kind of barbarian, methodology. So somebody may throw stones, and then they say this is a kind of just an ordinary citizen. It's not a state-sponsored act, you see, thus somehow, trying to escape responsibility by saying that this individual, for example, who did this act was, let's say, a victim of Armenian aggression in 1990s or whatever. But the aim is, again, to debilitate our will, our immune system, and by using a very primitive, low-cost scenarios, achieve large-scale depopulation of Artsakh.
Mhm. And what was the response by the Russian peacekeepers and the officials of Azerbaijan?
Well, we discussed this incident with Russian peacekeepers, and you may know that the foreign minister of Artsakh even issued a statement. Mm-hmm. The Russian peacekeepers are, of course, very much concerned, and they, of course, presented their vision to the Azerbaijani side. They said that they were going to punish these people and to compensate all the losses, material losses. Well, we will see, but the problem is not in compensation. The problem is that this is a tendency, and this is, again, already maybe a strategy and tactics which have been applied by Azerbaijan as a state policy, covered, of course, by some, I don't know, let's say, individual cases to avoid responsibility on a state level.
Once it happened, it may continue to happen.
Definitely.
Azerbaijan continually criticizes the Minsk group co-chairs, USA, France, Russia, and other countries, and also institutions, international institutions, say that the conflict must be solved in the framework of the co-chairmanship. What is expected, and what is the position of Artsakh government on this?
Well, official Stepanakert has been reiterating that the Minsk group format and this troika of co-chairmen, this format has not been expired. And we consider this format to be the only one which is capable of settling the Azerbaijani-Karabakh conflict. So we consider this to be the sole and a very effective format. And the efficiency we should not measure in, let's say, time framework that for so many years actually the conflict has not been solved. But because the conflict is so complicated that it cannot be solved even in coming decades. But the fact that for many years peace and stability have been maintained, this is also due to the activities of the OSCE Minsk Group co-chairmanship. This is why we consider this format to be the appropriate one. But of course, Azerbaijan continues to criticize this format, but it hasn't announced that let's say, already abandons this format, and it doesn't want to even meet with them. I think that this kind of position is rather a tactical move, because even the Minsk Group co-chairmanship, all the countries, Russia, United States, France, they have announced many times that they are ready to continue conflict settlement within this format.
What would you tell about the international community's response on the reaction on the 44-day war?
Well, we expected much more active stance, much more effective, much harsher. But this is the reality, because the notion of international community is a very vague one. What is international community? Turkey is a member of international community too. Pakistan, Azerbaijan itself. So what? I mean that some members of the international community have been indifferent completely to what's going on. Some of them are unable to somehow influence in positive or negative ways. Some other countries are, on contrary, very much eager to support Azerbaijan, Turkey. Some of them, of course, are genuinely interested in maintaining peace and stability. But international community is not a monolithic structure. Besides, international organizations are also overall not so active. And we always have to take this into consideration because geopolitics is a very hard thing. We don't have the right to make mistakes. And one of the biggest mistakes is inadequate understanding of the reality, perception of the reality. So we have to take into consideration the real state of affairs in world politics.
Also coming back to the Azerbaijan's action, when Aliyev visited the occupied territories, he ordered to erase Armenian scripts from the churches, and also we've witnessed many barbarian acts and vandalisms against Armenian cultural heritage. And how would you describe the international responsible institutions and even Minsk Group co-chairman countries' response on this?
You see, Azerbaijan is carrying out a policy of cultural genocide, which is very much evident. The president of that country himself orders to destroy all the Armenian monuments, to erase the scripts, as you mentioned. And we don't see appropriate response of the international community, again, because it's not a monolithic structure. And we see a not so active, sometimes even very passive stance of international organizations. As to the Minsk Group co-chair countries, then the most active role in preserving cultural heritage in Artsakh is playing Russia. Because it's due to the Russian President Putin's efforts that Dadivank, for example, one of the, let's say, most important monuments of Armenia and Artsakh is preserved, wasn't ruined. Dadivank, the Ghazanchezos Church Cathedral in Shushi, the Tizernavank monument. Well, physically, they have been there. But Azerbaijan is doing another thing, continuing this cultural genocide, because they again have a very rich history of geopolitical struggle. They are trying to turn these pieces of Armenian architecture and heritage, cultural heritage, into so-called Albanian cultural heritage, which is again part of global geopolitical game, because by this they want to divide the Christian community. Today they want to achieve, let's say, the independence of the so-called Albanian Agvank Church. By the way, using the potential of the Constantinopolis Patriarch. Tomorrow they will do that, the same things with, let's say, Belarusian Church or some other churches in the world, as they did it in case of Ukraine. So you see, it's a part of a much larger geopolitical game.
Mm-hmm. And recently, in December, if I am not mistaken, there were rumors about the Stepanakert airport opening. What is the current situation now? Are there any expectations or outlooks?
Well, we think that one day it will operate, because this was announced by the sides, by the peacekeepers too. But we also have to take into consideration that Azerbaijan is going to do everything possible to hinder this process. So it's a time-consuming, work-consuming, But anyway, it's possible.
Mr. Babayan, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
This is Open Platform of Armenian Public Television, and I discussed the current situation in Artsakh, possible developments, and the future of the peace process with Davit Babayan, Foreign Minister of the Republic of Artsakh. Thank you for watching us.